This might surprise you, but Brandin Cooks is the most underrated NFL player possibly of all time. He has had an amazing career, with over 5,000 yards in his first 5 seasons and nearly 10,000 yards across his 10-year career. Yet, with many great years under his belt, he's never been given the recognition he deserves. I'm going to take you through Brandin Cooks' astoundingly overlooked career so you can see how underrated he truly is. In 2014, he was drafted 20th overall to the New Orleans Saints, a great place for him with Drew Brees, who was near his prime as his quarterback. His rookie season, he put up 550 yards and 3 touchdowns, especially impressive against the Packers with 94 yards, 6 receptions, and a touchdown. However, in Week 10, he broke his thumb, ending his season 6 games early, but he did show flashes. His sophomore season, he balled out. 1,138 yards, 9 touchdowns, and 84 receptions. He did all of this at just 21 years old. The Saints didn't make the playoffs despite his success, and for some reason, although he had more touchdowns, catches, and yards as T.Y. Hilton, he also didn't make the Pro Bowl, but he still had time to make a name for himself and get better. 2016 was just like the season prior, 1,100 yards, 8 touchdowns, and 78 receptions, and the Saints again missed the postseason. With these 2 great seasons from Brandin Cooks, he's still yet to play in a playoff game or make a Pro Bowl. And to make things even worse, the very team that drafted him shipped him off to New England for a 1st and 3rd round pick, moving from Drew Brees to Tom Brady as his QB. Quite the change. His first season in a Patriots uniform, he surpassed 1,000 yards his 3rd straight season, scoring 7 touchdowns for 75 receptions, 8 of those being in the AFC Championship game where he had 100 yards and a 24-20 win. Cooks had a chance to really burst onto the scene, playing the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and he didn't. With just 2 targets and 1 catch for 23 yards, the Patriots also lost. To compound this pain, he got traded again, this time to the Rams. Getting traded hurts, but in back-to-back seasons is odd. Brandin Cooks wanted revenge, and he got it, dropping 1,200 yards, 80 catches, and 5 touchdowns in the regular season, but fell short of the Pro Bowl because he was busy playing in the Super Bowl, balling out in the playoffs with 4 catches for 65 yards in a divisional round win against the Cowboys, 7 receptions for 107 yards in the conference championship, beating the team that drafted him, New Orleans, then facing another ex-team, the Pats, in the Super Bowl. He did great, 8 receptions, 120 yards, but despite a great game from him, they lost 13-3 in the Super Bowl. In 5 years, Cooks has been traded twice and lost in the Super Bowl twice. His next season was a down year, with his least yards and catches thus far in his career, 42 receptions for 500 yards. This was largely due to him getting 2 concussions that year, limiting his playing time heavily. After that season, he was dealt to the Texans in yet another trade. And at this point, it's gotta be getting to his head, right? Well, apparently not, because he doubled his stats from last season. 81 catches, 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. But the Texans did terrible, finishing 4-12. He was the leader for this young and terrible offense. In the 2021 season, he'd have a career-high 90 receptions and 1,037 yards, tacking on another 6 touchdowns too, but would again get snubbed of the Pro Bowl. This was his 6th season north of 1,000 receiving yards since 2015, tying Mike Evans with the most at that time. Pretty good company. That season, the Texans finished even worse, at 4-13. The playoffs were not in the picture if Cook stayed there, but unlike how he's been treated, he stayed loyal, sticking with Houston for another season. And it was a train wreck. He finished shy of 700 yards and only 57 receptions and 3 touchdowns, his least across his entire career. The Texans also somehow did worse, going 3-13-1, but this was his longest tenure with a team to this point. And with CJ Stroud getting drafted, maybe Cooks in Houston can make a comeback, until he got traded for the 4th time to Dallas in exchange for a 5th and 6th round pick. With star receiver CeeDee Lamb already in Dallas, he's gonna get less targets and catches, and that he did, with only 54 receptions and 657 yards, but 8 touchdowns, nearly a career high. That was his stats last year, and heading into the 2024 season, he hasn't been traded yet. With this many great years under his belt, he still doesn't have a Pro Bowl despite 6 1,000-yard seasons. Brandin Cooks is disrespected by Pro Bowl voters, his own ex-teams, and fans. His career is really great, but he never got the recognition he deserved, making him NFL's most underrated player. That's the rundown. Like and subscribe.